What's going on, Tamers? It's me. Damn, I'm kind of buff. That works as an intro, I suppose. Whatever. The EX05 Theme Booster Animal Colosseum is finally out over here in Japan and the rest of Asia, and we got our first week of results. This set introduces a lot of new interesting cards, things like Leopardmon, the Nightclaw Lightfang cards, the Deva cards, as well as my personal favorite, Metal-Edamon. We've got data from over 70 events that happened last week, so let's dive in and take a look at some of the results, a couple of key takeaways, as well as a close look at some of the decks that topped over the course of the past week. Looking at week 1 results, I usually expect it to kind of be all over the place, but this time that hasn't happened. Surprisingly, a lot of the new decks have not made a big splash or impact in tournament results. As a testament to that, we still see King Marcus sitting on his throne atop the rest of the decks in the meta, and then once you cross that ultimate level moat there with no wins, we see a lot of the decks we've seen before. Decks like Bloom Quartz. Now, really interesting little subplot with Bloom Quartz for folks who've been watching the videos for a while. You know that some players have been testing out the new Quantumon card from the limited set in Bloom Quartz, and it seems like now most decks are running him, so he might be the wave of the future for green. Of the decks that did receive support in this new set, I think most folks thought that Metal Garurumon was going to come out on top as probably the strongest one out there, and I think that this list shows that was absolutely correct. The new Garurumon X antibody line does bring this deck back to the forefront with the rest of the strong decks out there. What's really interesting, and I think I might save this for its own video, is that there's not only one way to build this deck. There's actually, I think, right now 3 major types of Garurumon decks out there, and there's definitely one you're not going to see coming at all. The next newcomer deck with the best results for this week is actually one that really caught me off guard. I didn't really expect much from Fanglongmon, as well as the new Ace cards introduced alongside him, and the Deva deck for support. But I was proven wrong, I suppose. There are a couple of different ways to build this deck, either using like pure Deva. I've seen some people even try out like the Leopardmon plus Deva cards. There's a lot of the green cards he can utilize, and the new Leopardmon X antibody also lets you play some of those cards for free. And as we drop down to the rookie level, we see decks that have occupied this spot for quite a while now. Things like Chaos Dramon, Security Control, Bilzamon, and Mastodon, as well as Jellymon. There are also some newcomers here, things like the Anubismon, the Heavy Leomon, and the Leopardmon. And finally, looking at the in-training level, the only new deck out of this entire group is the Metal-Edamon deck. I'm really surprised that we didn't see any of the Leviamon decks out there, or things like the Nightclaw Lightfang? I think I got it right. Nightclaw Lightfang deck. I really thought the Leviamon specifically would be a great check to Finnerlugomon, but just nowhere to be seen. Surprising. As you longtime card game players know, week 1 of a meta is always kind of a toss-up. And it'll be interesting to see if some of those decks do make it up on this list in the next coming weeks. So the first deck we're going to take a close look at is going to be the Deva deck, featuring some of the new Ace cards as well as the Fanglongmon secret rare for the set. This deck build isn't anything crazy, actually. This is pretty much what I would expect for the deck. Lots of ways to cycle through cards in your deck, things like the Analog Youth as well as the System on Blanc here. Also the card Loyalty Deeper Than the Sea introduced in this set. The white option here, Holy Beast Great Cardinal Positions, is just to get out your Fanglongmon for cheap. For every differently named Deva card that you have in the trash, then this card's cost gets reduced by 1. So again, the more you sink into the trash, the cheaper this card becomes. And then the deck is mostly the Deva cards. I mean, they all kind of fit some theme. Like, for example, all the red cards give you Security Attack +1 on Inheritance. All the blue cards give you like Memory +1. All the black cards give you Blocker, and then all the green cards give you Piercing, I believe it is. I think they're all to that effect on Inheritance. Their actual effects when you play them are like draw a card, and then they have some other effect after that. It's not a huge advantage for an effect, but it's like draw 1 card, or gain 1 memory, or rest an opponent's Digimon, or something to that effect. Basically what I'm saying is I can't be bothered to know all of their effects and names, so yeah, that's about as far as I'm going to go. And then on the top end, we see all the Ace cards for the deck, which actually have some pretty nasty effects. Things like the Chenlongmon, the Zhuquaomon, I know I'm not saying it right, but the giant bird one, you know what I'm talking about. Additionally, we see the Baihumon, as well as the, what is it? Ebenwumon, I think it is in English. It's different in Japanese, but I believe in English it's Ebenwumon. And so while these cards are Ace cards, which means that you do suffer a penalty whenever they're removed from the board in some way, either being destroyed, returned to hand, etc., etc., they do have some pretty nasty effects that make it kind of worthwhile for you losing them. Things like destroy an opponent's Digimon with the highest DP, or the highest cost, or one that's rested, or one that has the highest level. So they all have pretty nasty effects to clear your opponent's board. You probably noticed that the Digitama for this deck are Mother D Reapers, and honestly I don't think this card is used at all. I think it's just a fake out, so that your opponent thinks you have eggs in the beginning of the game, because you actually need your breeding area slot for this deck. Whenever you would play one of these Deva cards, I said that before, they all draw a card, but they also allow you to play another Deva raw in your breeding area. One that has a different name for one that's either in play or in the trash. So You actually don't hatch some of the Reapers at all during the game, as far as I know. So the game plan for this deck is pretty straightforward. You want to sink as many of your Deva cards into the trash as possible with different names. That way you reduce the cost of your Holy Beast Great Cardinal position, so you can play a Fanglongmon. On play and on attack, you can take 4 of those Deva cards in your trash, put them at the bottom of your deck, and you give all of your opponent's Digimon minus 4,000 DP for the turn. That is not a once per turn effect either, so on play you can do that, and then you can do it again on attack, and so he can actually wipe out your opponent's board pretty easily. Additionally, for every one of the Great Sovereigns that you have, the Qinlong, the Bird, Ebon Wu, as well as Baihu, he also removes a security off your opponent's stack before he attacks. So if you've got some of these guys out, then you're basically just wiping out your opponent's security in one go. The piece de resistance for the Fanglongmon's effects here is that on all turns, he's not affected by your opponent's Digimon's effects at all. Keep in mind, he is affected by option cards, which means something like a Wyvern's Breath or a Gaia Force would take him out. The next deck we'll take a look at is going to be Anubismon. Now, Anubismon finds really cool synergy with Mervamon in ways to play her for free and generate a wide board in a single turn. So let's take a look. So the whole point of the deck is to get to the new Anubismon card, who, whenever you Digivolve into him or once per turn, you can play a Digimon from your hand and reduce his play cost by 3. At that time, you can also discard up to 3 cards from your hand, and when you do, you can reduce that card's play cost again by 1 more. So a total of 6 if you discard all 3 cards. That, combined with Mervamon, who can Digicross and reduce her own play cost by 3 already, means you can get a total of 9. So that's almost a free Mervamon. The rest of the cards in this deck, their inheritance effects, basically let you fill in the gap for those last 2 memory that you need to get to play this card for free. Things like the Labramon, who inherits, again, if you play Digimon by an effect, +1. Things like the Ignitemon as well. The Dobermon X Antibody introduced in EX5 has the same effect. Things like the Blue Meramon as well have the effect whenever you play in Digimon by an effect, +1 memory. So if you have at least 2 of these 3 cards in your sources, then you're going to be able to play the Mervamon for free. And we all know Mervamon, when you Digicross her, you can pull out 2 Digimon from the trash, who either have Retaliation or are Crossheart, and they also gain Rush for the turn. The deck also includes some pesky little cards, things like the Gajimon here, to stop things like Finnerlugomon from burst LTKing you in a single turn, as well as things like Saberdramon to attack opponents' unsuspended Digimon to stop them from hiding and then destroy them outright. Because this deck does heavily discard cards, the new Mat Tamer from the purple starter deck is a perfect slot in here, being able to give you +1 memory whenever you would discard one of those cards. And then start you off with 3 memory every single turn. It's a little hard to see here, but these 2 cards here are copies of the BT14 Supreme King Fist, which on play lets you get rid of a level 4 Digimon on your opponent's side of the board. But also, if you discard this card, you can just draw an extra card. So it's a way to just gain card advantage, basically. The idea here is to start your turn with 3 memory, thanks to the Mat Tamer, and then get at least 2 of the memory +1 inheritance effects. Digivolve into your Anubismon, and that's going to give you the +2, -3, -3, and then -3 here to get the Mervamon out for free. You rest the Mat Tamer, and also that's +1. So technically, this becomes a 3-cost Digivolve instead of a 4-cost, which means you get to keep your turn. You can play the Mervamon. Mervamon's going to play 2 Digimon because you Digicrossed, and then all 4 of those cards can attack. So if you've done even a little bit of chip damage before this, then you're going to close out the game very quickly. Our next is going to be the new Leomon set that was introduced in EX5. This deck combines green, yellow, and black at the same time, all with the Leomon cards. Lower end is pretty straightforward. The Leomons here lets you search security for Leomon named cards. The Elekimon lets you search your top 5 for Leomon named cards, and then the 2 copies of like the OG, like super old vanilla Elekmon here, and then 2 copies of Terriermon as a Floodgate. The level 4s include the new Leomon and Liamon card from EX5. I believe the Liamon counts as a Leomon named card, so it is searchable through the level 3's effects. But both these guys, whenever they attack, you can Digivolve them for -1 Digivolve cost, which is pretty nice considering level 5s have, I believe, Indomitable. So this new Indomitable trait is actually kind of nasty. Whenever the card would be deleted and it has a source, then you can play that card again from the trash without any sources on it. So as long as the card has a source and it has that Indomitable effect, it will always come back. Getting back to the cards themselves, the yellow-green line here mostly focuses on giving your opponent -DP, and then the black-green line focuses on giving you things like piercing, as well as de-digivolving and sending Digimon who have X amount of DP back to the bottom of your opponent's deck. All this culminates in the new Heavy Leomon, who on Digivolve and on deletion will de-digivolve something on your opponent's side of the board once, and then you can bottom deck a 6,000 or lower DP Digimon. And then once per turn, whenever he attacks, at the end of the attack, you can bottom deck a 4,000 DP or lower Digimon, and if there is no Digimon to bottom deck from that effect, you can unsuspend him. With the new final Zubagon Punch, this gives Heavy Leomon almost OTK potential. He can take out up to 4 security in a single turn. You also notice the 1 copy of the Rust Tyrannomon Ace. I love this inclusion because it sets up so that whenever you have a level 5 on the board and your opponent destroys it and it has sources, the Indomitable effect brings it back. And then if your opponent still attacks after that, they have to be very mindful of the Rust Tyrannomon resting all their stuff, and then they're completely left open the next turn. The deck also runs 2 copies of the BT14 Leopardmon, who lets you, on attack, basically warp Digivolve to a level 6 immediately, and I think that's mostly for the Bancho Leopardmon here, being able to give your opponent minus DP and minus security attack. The 1 copy of Davis here is kind of weird in my opinion. It is a generic search card, I suppose, for a green card that you might need if you want to seal off a turn. But honestly, with so many cards like the Green Memory Boost and the Agility Training, honestly, I don't think it's that necessary. Maybe something like the Green Mimi Tamer might be a little bit better here. And then finally, because this deck does run so many different colored Digimon, the Heaven's Judgment inclusion is a fantastic choice, as well as 3 copies of the, I think it's called Flashy Bancho Punch, which lets you rest one of your opponent's Digimon and then give something minus 12k. And then if that wasn't enough to actually destroy that Digimon on board, then one of your Leomon or Bancho named Digimon can attack after that. So it is a little heavy at 8 cost, but if you're trying to close out a game or take out a really big threat, then this is probably the way to do it. Interesting to note, like before this set actually came out, I had some friends like playtesting using some proxies, and they noted that the Indomitable trait makes cards extremely sticky and incredibly annoying to get off board. So the last list we're going to look at today is going to be this really cool Leopardmon list that utilizes some of the Deva cards to put on a surprising amount of offense. This deck actually won one of the Ultimate Cups over in Thailand, and the person who won posted up like their list of opponents in their decks, and honestly, considering the road they had to walk to get to first place, this deck is definitely spicy. Basic idea is pretty straightforward. You want to get to your level 5 as soon as possible, and then once you get to your level 5, the following turn you're going to go pull out of Raising, go into your Leopardmon here to play a 4 cost or lower for free. You can either get the Nameikemon here to do more search, you can play the Togemon here for reduced cost Tamers, or you can play the Kawagamon to lock a suspended Tamer or Digimon for a turn. Then, for 1 more memory, you can Digivolve into your Leopardmon X Antibody and play a 7 cost or lower Digimon basically, or Digimon for minus 7 cost. In this case, probably going to be one of the Deva Beasts or the Antilamon. It'll cost you 1, but keep in mind he does allow you to recover, so not that bad. Also, he has Alliance, which is incredible. And so you're probably thinking, well, that's where it ends. So you basically just get 3 Digimon on board, but they all can't attack. But they do all have Blocker. Keep in mind, the Leopardmon X does let you send back one of your opponent's Digimon on the board to their hand. That's like 11,000 DP or lower. This threshold can go higher, but you have to have more Digimon on board. Keep that in mind. What's really cool about the Leopardmon X is that once you play him and you play one of the Deva cards from the EX5 set, they also have that nice little ability where you draw a card on play, but also you get to put a differently named Deva card in your breeding area, which means the following turn, you're already set up with them to level 5 to keep the offense going. That means that turn after turn, you can just keep putting out big boards, and if your opponent can't break one of them, then you just win the game the following turn. I know there's actually a lot of ways to build Leopardmon X. In fact, I built one that was mostly using the Angoromon cards from Ghost Game, but this one is definitely worth giving a shot. And so that's going to wrap up the Week 1 meta report for the EX5's Animal Colosseum over here in Japan and the rest of Asia. Hopefully within the coming weeks we'll have a chance to see some of the new Leviamon decks or the Light Fang and Nightclaw decks. Specifically that Light Fang Nightclaw deck. There was some really good talk on Twitter. I think some decks came out of Korea that showed how if you use the Blue Tamer from that deck and the Purple Keen and Krier Tamer, you can actually steal your opponent's turn before they can do anything. Also, let me know what decks you guys are interested in seeing from the EX5 set as well in the comments below. I'm always reading there. Finally, if you have any questions about anything I talked about in this video or didn't talk about in this video, feel free to put those in the comments below as well. I do my best to answer those whenever I have time. And yeah, I'm going to get out of here. Before you get out of here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.